The sky over Nova Europa was burning. Flames danced through the clouds, glowing red and orange as bombs fell from black enemy ships. The colony had never seen war, not like this. For years, people here believed they were safe. The fields of blue, wheat stretched for miles, waving under twin suns. Children laughed in parks. Silver glass towers touched the sky. Homes and schools filled with life and joy. No one thought the war would ever come to them. General Mara Voss stood inside a cold bunker deep underground, watching everything fall apart on a wall of screens. She didn't blink. She couldn't. One screen showed a school being hit. Another showed the central tower collapsing. Dust, smoke, screams, so many screams. Her hands were tight fists behind her back. Her voice was calm when she finally spoke. "How many cities down?" A young officer, eyes wide and shaking, replied, "7. General, 7 gone. Half of Nova Europa's major population. Centers are gone." Mara didn't answer. She just stared at the screen. "Did the enemy hail us before the attack?" she asked. "No, ma'am, no warning, no message. They just arrived and started bombing." Mara closed her eyes. That wasn't war. That was extermination. Above the planet, the enemy ships floated like ghosts. Black, smooth, silent. They moved like shadows, vanishing and reappearing. One of the outer defense satellites tried to fire on them. It disappeared, not destroyed. Not broken, just gone, like it never existed. The humans had no time to respond, no time to fight back. Nova Europa's defense grid was weak. It was built for small pirate raids, not full planetary war. The aliens knew that. They picked this colony on purpose, but they made one mistake. They forgot where they were bombing. They forgot this was a human world. "Open the vault," Mara said, her voice like steel. The officers in the bunker froze. One whispered, "Ma'am, are you sure?" She turned slowly and looked him in the eye. "This colony was built with level 0 threat protocols. The vault was placed here for a reason. This is that reason." Silence filled the bunker. Then Mara walked toward the command console. Her fingerprint, her voice, and a small cut on her palm. 3 keys were required. The console beeped. "Access granted. Vault 7B unlocking." Far beneath the planet's surface, deeper than any civilian had ever gone, the ancient locks opened. Gas hissed out of the sealed chamber. Lights flickered on for the first time in 93 years. The walls were covered in metal vines, wires, tubes, and sensors long asleep. A slow, heavy hum began to fill the space. Then, something moved. At the center of the vault stood a giant. It wasn't a statue. It wasn't a machine. It was something in between. 20 meters tall. Humanoid. Covered in armor that looked almost like skin. Its eyes were closed. Its arms hung, still at its sides, but the hum came from it. It was waking up. Back in the bunker, the officers stared at the live feed from the vault. What is that?" one of them asked. Mara spoke softly. "That is Prometheus 1. No one said we had war machines like that. No one was supposed to know, that's the point." "But it's alive?" "Yes." The room went cold. Long ago, after Earth's last war, secret programs were built. Programs to create protectors, massive biomechanical guardians that would only be used if humanity faced extinction again. Most were shut down, canceled, erased, but not all. Nova Europa was one of the last colonies allowed to keep one, just in case. Mara had been told about it when she became general of the colony. She never thought she would need it. Not until today. The giant's chest lit up with a deep, red glow. Its fingers twitched, its head slowly lifted. Then its eyes opened, they burned like suns. A deep, heavy voice echoed through the vault, not from speakers, from the air itself. Extinction threshold reached, authorization detected, awaiting bond. "Bond?" the officer asked. Mara turned to him. It needs a human operator, a neural bond. The machine won't fully wake without one. You're going to pilot it? Mara hesitated. No, she said. I can't. My neural map's too damaged from an old injury. Then who? They didn't have time to search for volunteers. 10 levels above the bunker, the medical wing was filled with screams and fire. One child sat alone in a burned hallway. Her name was Elia, 8 years old. Her face was dirty. Her arms were cut. But her eyes, they stared at nothing. She held a small plush bear in her lap. Its fur was scorched. Her brother died holding her hand. She hadn't moved in an hour. Then a soldier found her, and the giant, deep underground, suddenly turned its head back in the vault. The Prometheus one spoke again. Bond detected. High compatibility. Candidate is untrained. Initiate? YN. The officers panicked. A child? That's impossible. It's reading emotional patterns, Mara said slowly. It's not just strength or age, it's grief, loss, drive. She's a match, the system confirmed. Ilya was brought to the vault. She didn't speak, she didn't cry, she didn't resist. When she stepped into the chamber, the giant knelt. Hello, operator, it said. She looked up. Her lips moved. Are you going to stop the monsters? The giant's voice dropped to a whisper. Yes, I was made for this. Outside, the black ships descended lower. The colony's last city, Arcadia, was next. Aliens landed, strange, tall beings with skin like stone and eyes like glass. They moved through the burning streets with no mercy, no feeling. They didn't see the sky changing behind them. They didn't see the vault gates split the ground open. They didn't see the giant rise. Prometheus One stepped out onto the surface. The air shimmered around it. Each footstep cracked the earth. In its hand it held a weapon that looked like a sword and a cannon combined. The alien stopped. Then they ran. One ship tried to lift off. The giant grabbed it midair and crushed it like paper. Mara stood on the surface, wind blowing her hair. She watched as the machine, no, the protector, moved like it was born for this. Then the voice came again, not from a speaker, but from Elia. Her voice echoed through the giant's systems. For my brother, she said. The giant roared. The battle had begun, and this time, humanity wasn't running. The air was thick with smoke. Buildings burned behind them. The sky above Nova Europa was dark now, not because of night, but because of ash. And in the middle of it all, a giant stood tall. Prometheus One had crushed 3 enemy ships in minutes. Its red eyes glowed like twin suns. Its voice was silent, but its presence screamed power. Inside the giant, little Elia sat in a seat too big for her, surrounded by glowing lights and soft humming sounds. Her hands didn't touch controls. She didn't need to. The bond was in her mind. She didn't understand how it worked. She only knew one thing. The giant felt her pain. It remembered her brother. And it was angry for her. Outside, soldiers from Nova Europa's last defense unit stood in shock. Most of them had never seen anything like this. Some fell to their knees. Others cheered. General Mara Voss stood on a broken platform watching. She knew this was only the beginning. Back inside the command bunker, the remaining officers tried to understand what was happening. How many of these things do we have? One asked. Mara didn't look away from the screen. Not things, she said. Weapons feel nothing. These feel too much. She paused, then continued. There were 3 giants built for Nova Europa. Prometheus One is active. 2 and 3 were locked deeper underground. I need them online now. But we don't have operators, General. We'll find them. Far beneath the city of Arcadia, the other vaults began to stir. Prometheus 2. Codename, Helios. Prometheus 3. Codename, Nyx. Both were asleep. Both needed time to power up. Both needed human operators with strong emotions. Rage, grief, purpose. Mara knew that somewhere in the ruins, There were people who felt all of those things. An hour later, scouts returned from the outer zones with survivors. One was a young woman named Lynn Cade. She had lost her entire rescue team trying to save children from a collapsed hospital. Her right arm was broken, her left eye was blind, but she walked into the bunker like fire itself. "I heard you've got monsters down there," she said to Mara. "Let me inside one. I'll burn every enemy ship in the sky." Mara looked into her eyes and nodded. "She's a match," the system confirmed. The second candidate was more surprising. He was old, almost 70. A retired engineer named Doran Vall. He came carrying the body of his wife wrapped in cloth. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just stared ahead. "I helped build the outer wall of this colony," he said slowly. "I watched it fall. If I'm going to die here, I want to die inside something that can punch back." Mara didn't question him. "She is rage. He is sorrow," she whispered. "Perfect match," the AI confirmed. 2 more vaults opened. 2 more giants stood, Helios and Nyx. Helios was fast, streamlined, golden armor, long arms like blades. Nyx was heavy, dark and brutal, shoulders wide, arms shaped like shields. Now 3 protectors walked the burning colony world. Aaliyah, Lynn, and Doran were connected. Their minds were wired into the giants. But they weren't machines anymore. The machines were wired into them. Each giant felt what their operator felt, and their emotions shaped their movement, their strength, and even their weapons. Back in orbit, the alien fleet realized something had changed. Scouts sent to destroy. The final cities never returned. Commanders sent to capture Mara's bunker were found torn apart. Some crushed, some sliced, some melted. A signal was sent from the enemy mothership to all its forces. New threat detected. Human biomechs active. Retreat to orbit for regroup, but some enemy commanders didn't listen, and that was their final mistake. In the forest outside Arcadia, Lynn and Helios moved through trees like lightning. Enemy soldiers set up traps. They used EMP charges and plasma cannons. But Helios was too fast. Lynn's anger gave the giant its speed. Her pain gave it precision. One enemy ship tried to fly low and fire missiles into the city. Helios jumped, straight into the sky. It ran up a building still standing, then leapt through the clouds. A second later, it crashed through the ship's cockpit like a bullet. The explosion painted the clouds orange. Near the crater lake, Doran and Nyx stood like a wall. Enemy tanks rolled toward a refugee camp hidden behind the hills. Doran didn't speak. He just thought about his wife, her laugh, her final words. Nyx moved slowly, but nothing stopped it. It walked through the tanks. Not over. Through. When the last tank fired, Nyx lifted its shield arm and caught the blast like dust. Then Doran whispered, "You don't get to take anyone else." Nyx slammed the ground. A shockwave spread for miles. Back at the colony center, Mara received new data. 3 active giants, the system said. Enemy forces falling back. But long-range sensors show something else. Mara stepped closer. "What else?" The officer gulped. "A larger signal, deep space, something big and moving fast. Alien capital ship, 10 times larger than the rest." Mara's eyes narrowed. "They're sending their real weapon now." That night, as the flames cooled and the stars returned, the 3 giants stood side by side on a mountain ridge. Aaliyah sat inside Prometheus 1. She looked up at the stars. "I'm scared," she whispered. The giant didn't answer with words. Instead, it reached out and touched the hand of Nyx beside it. The other giant touched Helios. 3 hands connected. 3 minds shared one thought. We protect. In the bunker, Mara stood in the war room alone. She stared at a screen showing the deep space radar. The enemy capital ship was still hours away. But she knew. The next battle would decide everything. She tapped a button on the console and opened an old file. It was titled Project Prometheus Contingency File. Alpha inside, a single sentence. If they ever return, don't wake one giant. Wake them all. Space trembled. The capital ship of the enemy fleet, codenamed Dreadfather, moved closer to Nova Europa. It was unlike anything the colony had seen, 3 kilometers long, covered in black armor that shimmered like oil. No windows, no heat signature. Just silence. Then it spoke. Not in words, but in thoughts. Every human on Nova Europa heard it inside their mind. You were warned. Now you will be erased. In the command bunker, General Mara Voss stood frozen. The psychic echo had knocked several officers unconscious. Blood dripped from one man's nose. Another trembled in a corner, whispering to himself. Mara gritted her teeth. She had heard alien voices before in war, but never like this. What the hell is that thing? She whispered. The AI responded from the war table. Dreadfather-class vessel. Origin, unknown. Biological core. Mental attack radius, 2,300 kilometers. Warning, planetary extinction probability, 91%. High above the planet, the Dreadfather opened, not like a ship, like a wound. From its center, black pods dropped like seeds. Hundreds, maybe thousands. They burned through the sky. Each one contained something terrible. On the mountain ridge, the 3 giants looked up. Elia, inside Prometheus 1, shivered. They're coming, she whispered. Lynn, inside Helios, tightened her grip. Let them. Doran, inside Nyx, simply closed his eyes. One more time. The black pods landed. Each one cracked open with a hiss. From inside crawled creatures made of bone and metal, tall as buildings, long arms, no eyes, no voices, only hunger. Reapers. That was the name the AI gave them. Not machines, not animals, not alive, but not dead either. They didn't walk, they slid, across rocks, over water, through fire, and they only had one goal: destroy anything human. The first wave hit the city ruins. Civilians screamed as Reapers tore through rubble, dragging people out of shelters. Soldiers fired, but bullets barely slowed them down. One man tried to throw a grenade, only for the Reaper to catch it midair and shove it down his throat. Boom. Nothing left. But then, the giants arrived. Prometheus 1 charged first, smashing a Reaper into the ground with one punch. The impact created a small earthquake. Helios came next, slashing with its blade arms, spinning through enemy lines like a storm. Nyx followed behind, defending survivors, absorbing blast after blast. The I-3 moved like gods, but for every Reaper they destroyed. 2 more landed in the bunker. Mara made a decision. We need more, she said. Activate the other vaults. An officer gasped. General, those vaults are unfinished. Some of those giants were never tested. I don't care. If they can stand, they can fight. 5 more vaults were awakened, only 2 succeeded. Prometheus 4. Titan, piloted by a mute ex-miner named Cole, who had lost his entire crew under alien bombing. Prometheus 5. Echo, piloted by an AI-augmented orphan girl named Sana, who never spoke, but whose mind was stronger than most generals. Now 5 giants stood on Nova Europa, a small army. Last hope. The Reapers adapted. Some split into 2 smaller creatures when injured. Others exploded like acid bombs. The giants took damage. Helios lost part of its arm. Nyx's left leg moved slower. Prometheus 1 began to flicker. Elia's mind was strained. Inside the cockpit, Elia whispered, I can't hold on. The giant's voice responded, Then rest. I will carry your grief. And it fought harder. Above the clouds, the Dreadfather watched. And then, it sent the herald, a single figure, not machine, not beast, but a humanoid, wrapped in white, glowing with dark light, tall, thin, and smiling. It dropped from the sky like lightning and landed in front of the giants. The world stopped for a second, even the Reapers froze. Elia stared at it from inside Prometheus 1. "What is that?" she asked. The AI responded in a whisper. It was human. Once, the herald raised its hand. Prometheus 4, the new giant piloted by Cole, staggered, then dropped. No weapon touched it, no blast hit it. But Cole screamed inside the cockpit and vanished, not dead, erased. Echo's operator, Sana, cried out. Not in pain, but fear. Her voice echoed through every giant. It eats memories. The herald walked forward step by step, and every step brought silence. Mara watched from the bunker, horrified. "This isn't war," she whispered. "This is punishment." A red warning flashed on the screen. Prometheus 1 nearing operator. Collapse. Neural overload imminent. Alia inside the cockpit was shaking. Her heartbeat raced. "Why is it in my head?" she cried. The herald wasn't speaking words. It was showing her images, twisted visions of her dead brother, calling her name, blaming her, begging her. Alia screamed. But Prometheus 1 didn't fall. Instead, it roared. No. A wave of red light pushed the herald back. Alia's eyes glowed. Inside the cockpit. "I remember my brother," she said, tears falling. "But I'm not afraid anymore." The herald flew toward her. But this time Prometheus 1 didn't fight alone. Helios and Nyx stood beside it. Echo and Titan rose again. 5 giants. 5 human minds. Together. One thought. We are not your prey. The final battle had begun. But deep below the planet something else stirred. A signal. A message. A heartbeat. The oldest vault. One that even Mara didn't know existed. It whispered one word into the void. Awakening. Beneath Nova Europa's surface, far deeper than any known vault, a forgotten machine stirred. It had not moved in 200 years. Not since the old war, a war erased from history, buried by treaties, and sealed in shame. But war had returned, and it remembered the promise. If humanity is ever threatened with extinction again, awaken me. A pulse echoed through bedrock. Faint, ancient, growing. Above ground, the battle raged on. The 5 Prometheus units stood their ground. But barely. The herald was too fast. Too powerful. It moved like smoke and struck like thunder. Helios had lost. Both arms. Titan's chest plate was cracked open. Echo's systems were flickering. Nyx had fallen to one knee. Only Prometheus 1 stood tall. Alia inside, her eyes red from weeping but full of fire, but even she was close to collapse. Inside Prometheus 1's cockpit, Alia whispered, "I won't let you take this planet." The herald turned to her, and for the first time, it spoke, not in her mind, but out loud, a soft, hollow voice. "You don't belong in this galaxy." Alia stared back. "Then we'll make it ours." Suddenly, a rumble shook the battlefield. It wasn't an attack, it was coming from beneath. The Reapers paused. The herald tilted its head. Then a mountain far beyond the colony exploded upward, stone and dirt flying into the sky. From the crater, a massive figure rose, bigger than any Prometheus unit, twice as tall, covered in dust, scars, and metal plates marked with pre-colony symbols. Its eyes, golden. Its code name, Prometheus 0. Its nickname in old records, the Warden. General Mara Voss saw it on the command screen and staggered backward. "I thought it was a myth," she whispered. The AI responded, "Prometheus 0, prototype. Only deployed once in Earth's final defense, sealed after the war, status awakening." Inside Prometheus 0, there was no operator, yet it moved, walked, thought. The Warden did not require a pilot. It was built from a human mind. Long ago, a dying soldier had uploaded himself into the giant to save Earth. His name lost, his sacrifice erased. But now, he was awake again and angry. The herald turned to face Prometheus 0 for the first time. It hesitated, then lunged. It was a blur of light and death, slicing through air, forming blades of pure gravity. But Prometheus 0 caught the strike. One hand. No effort. And it spoke. Its voice was not soft. It was not angry. It was calm. Human. Tired. You left us no choice. Then it punched. The herald flew backward a kilometer, crashing into a hill, splitting the stone. The other giants stood in shock. Even Prometheus I paused. Ilya whispered, "Who is that?" The answer came in her mind. Not from her AI, but from the warden itself. "I was the first. Now I am the last." The herald rose again, furious. It summoned all the reapers to its side, hundreds forming a dark swarm. They rushed toward Prometheus Zero and... The warden moved. One step forward. Another. Then it ran. The ground split under its feet. With one leap, it crashed into the horde like a meteor. Energy erupted. The sky turned white, and the scream of the herald echoed across the planet. In the bunker, Mara Voss watched, trembling. "This changes everything." The AI nodded. "Prometheus Zero's neural core is stable. Power output is rising. Enemy resistance dropping by 43%. Mara leaned in. "Open a direct line." Inside Prometheus Zero, the warden heard the voice. "Warden," Mara said. "This is General Voss. Nova Europa is falling. Can you stop this?" The warden didn't answer immediately then. "I am not here to save the colony. I am here to end the war." Far above the planet, the Dreadfather reacted. It opened again, revealing its true core. A city-sized sphere of twisted flesh and machine, pulsing with black lightning. It began to charge a weapon, a beam that could erase Nova Europa in seconds. On the battlefield, Ilya received the data. They're going to burn the planet. The giants turned toward the sky, too far, too high, too fast. They couldn't reach it in time, but the warden could. It looked to the 5 younger giants and sent one final message. Live. Then it crouched. The ground trembled. Flames gathered at its feet, and Prometheus Zero launched into the sky. It passed the clouds. It broke the sound barrier. It reached space in under 30 seconds. Inside the Dreadfather, alien commander screamed. The weapon was not ready. Too late. The warden hit the ship with all its speed, a golden comet of fury. The Dreadfather cracked open. Explosions rippled, flames burst from every side. One last scream echoed through the galaxy, then silence. From Nova Europa's surface, the people watched the stars and saw the Dreadfather collapse, a broken shape falling into the atmosphere. Pieces burned up like meteors. Some cheered, some cried. Ilya stood inside her giant, silent. Then whispered, "Thank you." But as the flames faded, one golden spark remained in the sky. The warden was still out there, watching, waiting. 3 days had passed since the Dreadfather fell from the sky like a shattered god. The skies above Nova Europa were calm, too calm. No more reapers, no more herald, no sound from the stars, but no one celebrated. They waited, because everyone knew. The real war hadn't even started. General Mara Voss stared at the tactical map. New signals had appeared, massive energy readings from beyond the edge of the solar system. A second fleet was coming, larger, older, and full of things even the Eeyore AI couldn't name. Ilya stood outside her giant, Prometheus I. Burnt ground stretched around her. She hadn't removed her neural helmet in 36 hours. Her hand still trembled. Not from fear, from memory. She kept seeing the warden's last message. Live. She didn't know if it was still out there, but she hoped. In the colony's underground hospital, survivors gathered, children who had lost parents, elders who had lost homes, soldiers who had lost limbs, and in the corner sat Lynn, pilot of Helios. She hadn't spoken since the battle. Her arms were burned, her suit cracked, but her eyes were filled with rage. She wasn't mourning. She was waiting for revenge. In the main command bunker, a debate exploded. One faction, mostly Earth-loyal officers, wanted evacuation. The others, led by Mara, refused. We hold this colony, she said. Or we show the galaxy that humanity is finished. Someone argued. They have hundreds of ships. We only have 5 giants, Mara answered. Then we give them a reason to fear 5 giants. Suddenly the AI interrupted. Incoming transmission. Unknown source, language, human base structure, encryption, pre-colony, location, edge of system. Everyone froze. A message began to play, distorted, echoed, but clear. We never forgot Earth. We just waited until you forgot yourselves. Alia, Lynn, Doran, and the other operators were rushed to the war table. A hologram loaded. It showed the enemy fleet, but not made, of ships, massive creatures, each the size of moons, not organic, not machine, both. Bioarcs, the AI explained, designed to carry entire civilizations through war, created long ago, now repurposed. Sana, the young operator of Echo, finally spoke. They're alive. One of the creatures, named Archollo, sent a pulse to the human systems. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a message, and it showed Earth's forgotten history, a flash, images of human experiments. Genetic weapons, ancient soldiers becoming monsters to win the first galactic war. The truth, humans had created the Reapers, not aliens, not invaders, us. The Reapers were human-designed bioweapons meant to defeat an older alien race that once ruled the stars, but they turned on their makers. Earth covered up the truth, erased the records, built peace, but the enemy never forgot, and now they had returned with their own monsters to punish the children of war. Elia dropped to her knees. We did this? Mara's face was stone. Not us, she said, but they see no difference. In orbit, Archollo opened, not to attack, to broadcast. Thousands of alien voices screamed in unison. You unleashed us. Now watch as we end what you began. The warden heard it too, drifting in deep space, hiding among wreckage, his systems flickering, his golden eyes dim, but his memories clear. He whispered to himself, I remember what we did. And then he turned back toward Nova Europa. Back on the surface, Prometheus 1 received a signal. Private. Old code. Only Elia could hear it, a voice she didn't recognize, but somehow felt familiar. The giants were never weapons. We were warnings. And now the final one wakes. She looked to the horizon, and the ground shook. A hidden canyon opened. Rocks split. A 6th giant rose from underground, covered in stone, vines, and time. Larger than all but the warden. Its name. Prometheus 6, its title. The judge, and inside it, no operator, just a human mind stored centuries ago, a traitor from the old wars. Mara gasped. The judge was sealed because it destroyed both sides in the war. Elia whispered, Why would it wake now? The AI answered, Because it sees no difference between them and us. The judge opened its chest. A blinding light spread across the battlefield, not a weapon, a trial. Suddenly, every human on Nova Europa felt it. Guilt, memory, echoes of war crimes buried deep in history. Children saw images they couldn't understand. Soldiers collapsed weeping. Operators screamed. It was judging all of them. And in the sky, the enemy fleet stopped. Even Archollo paused, because the judge wasn't just built by humans. It had once fought against them, and now, it wasn't sure which side to destroy. Elia looked up at the glowing giant. We're running out of time. Mara clenched her fists. Then we remind the galaxy. We're not just survivors, we're humans, and we never stop fighting. The air above Nova Europa shimmered with ghost light. Prometheus 6. The judge stood silent in the canyon, glowing like a sun trapped inside a body of steel and stone. It didn't move, didn't speak, but everyone heard its voice. Inside, their minds. Humanity must answer. You unleashed death. Now face the verdict. Inside the command bunker, General Mara Voss gritted her teeth. We don't have time for this, she said. The enemy fleet is almost here. But the AI replied, Incorrect. The judge controls access to the planetary defense grid. Until judgment is passed, no weapon will fire. Mara looked at the operators. They've grounded us, trapped us, on our own planet. Elia, still inside Prometheus 1, felt her cockpit temperature drop. Frost lined the glass. Then, memories that weren't hers flashed through her mind. A burning Earth, screaming civilians, human soldiers injecting themselves with alien DNA. A young girl watching her father become a monster, to save the planet, only to be executed by his own side. The judge's voice echoed again. You forgot? The cost. You buried the pain, but we remember. Across the battlefield, Lynn, pilot of Helios, fell to her knees, blood from her nose. She shouted into her comms, "We were just children. We weren't even born when the old wars happened." The judge responded, "Your blood remembers, your code is not clean." Above the planet, the enemy moved closer. The arc hollow and 2 new bioarcs appeared. Arc marrow, shaped like a rib cage of metal and bone. Arc veil, surrounded by a mist that erased signals and mines. They did not attack. They waited. Because even they feared the judge. Inside the depths of Nova Europa, Prometheus 0, the warden, reactivated. Its golden eyes lit once again. It had hidden in orbit debris, repairing, watching. Now it returned. Quietly. It sent a message only to Elia. You can't defeat the judge with fire. It was built to survive judgment. You must pass the trial. Back at the bunker, AI systems failed. Lights flickered, screens died. Only one screen stayed on, a single image. Earth, burning in blue flames. Beneath it, 3 words flashed. Choose, confess, continue. Mara gathered the operators. Listen to me. Whatever this thing is, it's tied to our giants. We connected with them. They have our minds, and now this one is dragging us through the past. Doran, pilot of Titan, spoke slowly. You think if we confess, it lets us fight again? Mara nodded. I don't know, but it's the only way forward. Each operator was forced into the trial room, a virtual space generated by the judges. Neural field. There they saw visions tailored to their guilt. Elia saw the moment she abandoned her brother on a refugee ship years ago to join the military. Lynn faced the time she chose to leave wounded civilians behind on a collapsing colony. Sana was forced to relive being saved by an alien child, and later giving the coordinates of that child's village to command. Every one of them broke, but not all of them gave up. Inside the storm of memories, Elia stood tall. She faced the projection of her younger self, scared, angry, and said, I'm not perfect. I was scared, but I came back to fight, and I'll die protecting what's left of us. The ghost faded, the cold vanished, and the judge's chest dimmed. Outside, the clouds cleared. The AI spoke in awe. Trial accepted. Planetary defenses returning. Mara shouted, Launch the final protocol. Bring up the orbital gauntlet. But, then the enemy attacked. Not with beams, not with bombs, but with something worse. A voice. The arc veil projected a frequency into the minds of every human on Nova Europa. Whispers, lies, screams. You are murderers. Your giants lie. You are your own doom. Some humans fell into madness. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Others begged for surrender. But then, a sound broke through the storm. A heartbeat. From the sky, Prometheus 0 fell like a burning angel, crashing into the enemy signal tower on the mountainside. The interference vanished. The warden rose from the flames and said, You gave us pain. But pain is not weakness, it is memory. And humans remember how to fight. With defenses back online, Mara gave the order. Fire all systems. Lasers lit up the sky. Missile pods launched. The giants moved in sync. For the first time in days, humanity fought back. Prometheus, one leapt onto arc marrow, slicing through its bone shield. Helios used its broken arm to stab through enemy cores. Titan crushed the last of the Reaper drones. Even the judge fought, not with weapons, but by disabling enemy commands, erasing their AI with pure logic. But Arcalo had one last move. It opened its core, and inside revealed a stolen heart, a preserved human brain. Once a child. Used as a living computer, the enemy had learned our cruelty, and they had turned it against us. Elia stared, trembling. We did this. We made them like this. Prometheus Zero stood beside her. Then we finish it. The warden and the judge launched together, two ancient giants, one built to protect, one built to punish, and now united. They tore into Arcalo, flames, screams, light, death. A final explosion lit up the sky like a second sun. And then, silence. The battlefield was ash. But the stars were clear. Inside her giant, Ilia wept. Not in grief, but in release. And the warden's final words came to her once more. Live. The stars were quiet. The battlefield around Nova Europa was full of broken machines, shattered Reapers, and the black bones of bioarcs. Prometheus Zero, the warden, was gone. Its last move had destroyed Arcalo, saving the colony, but at a final cost. Only fragments of its golden armor remained, scattered in orbit like tears frozen in time. Ilia sat in the cockpit of Prometheus 1. She had not moved in hours. The neural link had been cut, but she still felt it. The pain. The memory. The heartbeat that had guided her through the war. Outside, the colony burned softly in the wind. But inside her, something had changed. She was no longer a pilot. She was a witness. General Mara stood on the main tower, her coat blowing in the storm. She stared at the map. No more enemies. No more signals. No more orders. Just silence. The AI spoke softly in her ear. War level complete. Probability of further assault 0.3%. Rebuilding can begin. Mara didn't answer. She just whispered, at what cost? In the lower decks, civilians started to crawl out of bunkers. Children looked up at the sky, not with fear but with wonder. They had seen monsters. They had seen giants, but they had also seen humans stand tall. Inside the underground core, the judge powered down, its eyes dimmed. Final words echoed in every operator's mind. You remembered pain. You passed the trial. This generation may continue. Then silence. The judge would never rise again. It had done its duty. Across the ruined hills, Helios, Titan, and Echo were damaged beyond repair. The operators stood beside them. Armor cracked. Bodies bruised, but they stood, because they had made it through. Not as pilots, but as survivors. A week passed. Then 2. Scouts found something strange in orbit. A small object, shaped like a cube, drifting alone. No signal. No weapon. When brought to the surface, it unfolded and revealed a seed. From the enemy. A gift. No message, no warning. Just a simple biological core. Human scientists analyzed it. Inside were genetic memories of every life the Reapers had ever taken. It was a reminder, not of hate, but of history. On the 10th day after the war, Mara called a gathering. Thousands stood in silence outside the colony's rebuilt center. She stepped forward and spoke. We always thought giants would save us, but they were never just machines. They were stories. And today we write a new one. She raised a hand. Behind her, a statue was unveiled, not of a soldier, not of a weapon, but of a child. Holding a broken helmet, the base read, We remember, we survive, we stand. Aelia stood far from the crowd. She placed her hand on Prometheus 1. It was no longer a weapon, it was her friend, her memory, her pain. She felt something in her mind. One last flicker, a whisper, the warden's voice. Faint but there. They feared our rage. They forgot our love. Now they will remember both. And then, nothing. The war was over. But the galaxy had changed. Earth's colonies would no longer hide. They would no longer run. Because now the galaxy knew, you can break our worlds, but we will always rise. And when we rise, our giants will walk again.